Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, donned in my St. Patrick's Day uniform, complete with my shamrock. I have one here and one here. Can't see that one. So St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner, and so just paying a little tribute to my Irish brothers and sisters. My fiance, Clodagh, is Irish, and as you can see, I got these coins here that we've got. One is the Irish Dublin Fire Brigade, and the other one is just a nice Irish emblematic coin. There's this Irish group that sent those to me a while back, along with a tie and some other cool stuff. And I had an Irish lady send me some proper 12. Here, I'll show you. See, some proper 12. And then we've got in this patch that they gave me. You know, I just love the Irish, and everybody loves the Irish. I mean, fucking name. Anyway, whatever. Everybody loves the Irish, you know, and it's because they're so good-natured. And anyway, so I pay a lot of attention because I actually go to Ireland quite a bit. It's a part of our heritage in my family that we hold dear. So my fiance, Clodagh, she's from Leitrim. My great-grandfather was from Mayo, which is they're right next to each other on the west coast of Ireland. So give a little tip of the hat to the Irish. I woke up last Tuesday thinking it was St. Patrick's Day. It was a week early. Got dressed up like this, and they're like, "It's next Tuesday, my friend." And, well, you can never be too early for St. Patrick's Day, right? Anyway, so today we're reacting to the New York City bomber, the guy who tried to take out Jake Lang, the right-wing activist. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get to that, I want to express a desire for everybody to be careful on St. Patrick's Day, because you don't want to have to need a lawyer. But if you do, you call askalawyer.com, or you go to askalawyer.com, and for $49, you can get a living, breathing lawyer. They're not going to represent you in court, but guess what they'll do? They'll get you to where you need to go. Whether you have a dispute with your landlord or whether you're suing somebody. We had one of our fans that had an elder law question and was able to get them on track. If you're doing your own research, they have an AI component trained in all the 50 states. So go to askalawyer.com. Same people that brought you e-sign and e-forms, both of which I use on a regular basis. So go there too if you need that kind of stuff. So askalawyer.com. So on March 7th, outside New York City mayor's residence, Jake Lang, the right-wing activist, provocateur, was holding an anti-Muslim rally. You know, I had a client that I represented like 5 years ago, and this was during the George Floyd riots. Her boyfriend at the time decided to bomb a school, light a school on fire, and she was with him, and she kind of did some stuff, you know, went on the run with him and helping him after the fact. She wasn't really part of that, but she was like brainwashed. Right? And she was from Iraq, and I wound up representing her and kept her out of prison federally, which is hard to do. This hate stuff has just got to go. I mean, just because somebody's fucking Muslim, I mean, who gives a shit? You know, it's like do you think I give Robert shit because he's gay? Oh, sure I do. But it's all in good natured, you know? Anyway, we're all Americans here. So remember Jake Lang? He's the one who did this in Minneapolis.
President Trump, we support you. We support ICE.
Give me a fucking break. Look at this dude in a fucking fatigues. Who are you? First of all, you know what? I don't even think it's legal for civilians to wear body armor.
Our country was made for Americans, not for Somalis.
Okay, do you realize that the biggest fraud in Minnesota wasn't committed by a Somali? It was created by Petters. The Petters, it was like $3 billion.
Baby, America first, America only. We'll see you here February 7th, Saturday, 12 noon, outside the Minnesota State Capitol.
What a tough guy. He beat up some ICE. Oh my gosh, I'm just so impressed.
This morning, a right-wing influencer facing charges for his latest stunt here in Minnesota.
Jake Lang was booked into the Ramsey County Jail yesterday after the 30-year-old posted a video to social media. It showed himself destroying an ice sculpture just hours after it was unveiled at the state capitol. And here's what the sculpture looked like. Lawmakers and veterans and community leaders unveiled it more than a 20-foot-long frozen statement earlier in the day, this creation. It read, "Prosecute ICE." Authorities say this was a permitted display at the state capitol.
Now, I'm not one for hyperbole, or am I? I don't know that I would be, first of all, I have a murder case right now where the guy on my case was taken off my case because he's putting together the prosecution of these ICE agents. So that is on its way.
Lang left the scene in a vehicle, but State Patrol says he was pulled over by a trooper and arrested. He was booked on suspicion of criminal damage to property.
And guess what? You break that shit, you buy that shit. You didn't have authority to wreck their shit, okay? I guarantee you they're going to have to go back and see what was the cost of creating those ice sculptures. I mean, it probably wasn't cheap.
One of the organizers of the ice sculpture sent us a statement saying in part, quote, "I gave 8 years of my life in service to this country, to the military. For a January 6th insurrectionist to destroy our display is an attack on the First Amendment veterans like me fought to defend." Lang was pardoned by the president last year.
All right, we're not going to get into a whole, January 6th deal, but he destroyed property. See you later. And this is it. This is right in Minneapolis. This is him getting his ass kicked in Minneapolis. He's really tough when it comes to the inanimate objects. Not quite so tough when he's confronted by people who are pissed off. That's our good friend Jake the Snake. Now, so in the middle of the demonstrations in New York, someone threw a homemade explosive device into the crowd. That can be a federal offense too, and there are generally stiffer crimes or stiffer penalties in federal court.
You don't live in New York. You're coming to New York to tell people who belongs in New York and who doesn't belong in New York. We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
No, I'm going to just say no, not a good idea. Let's watch this again.
Stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
It's not okay to be throwing bombs at people. I'm probably one of the few people that have represented somebody in a pipe bomb case. And oddly enough, possession of those is legal as long as it's registered. Did you know that? I didn't know that until I had the case. The rhetoric on both sides is so caustic and is so ridiculous. I hate to see my fellow brothers, fellow Americans, at each other. My heart is kind of fucking breaking in a sense, because why don't we just embrace everybody that fucking wants to be here? I mean, it's a great place.
The NYPD says it's investigating an attack in Manhattan as a possible ISIS-inspired terror act. Investigators say anti-Muslim protests outside the mayor's residence were underway when counter-protesters brought 2 explosive devices. Now, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch says the department's doing everything it can to keep New Yorkers safe.
Preliminary test results determined that these were not hoax devices nor smoke bombs. They were improvised explosive devices that could have caused serious injury or death. The NYPD does thorough counterterrorism investigation.
Now, the penalty for using an improvised explosive device has a mandatory minimum of 5 years. but it can be far greater than that if anybody's injured or if there's a target, hate crime, anything like that.
Investigations and treats every incident of this kind with the highest level of urgency and care. And it is why we remain vigilant.
ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky has the details. Hi, Aaron. So Commissioner mentioned a third device was also found. What's the latest on this investigation?
That device, the third one, was found in a car that the suspects were believed.
And you can get a sentence for each device. I mean, each one is a separate count, right? And you can get 5 years just for possessing it, let alone if you're trying to use it.
To have driven from Bucks County, Pennsylvania into New York City over the weekend.
And here's the other thing. You can also get conspiracy to commit murder.
Diane, that third device did not test positive for explosives the way the other two did, according to the police commissioner, but all three have now been sent to the FBI lab at Quantico for additional.
So if you look at the difference between, say, our dear leader talks about the difference in us as citizens, as opposed to the way George Bush Jr. did, GW, when he, and I'm not a Republican either, so more of an independent, but George Bush, when he sat there and he gave a speech right after 9/11, he talked about, we're going to go after the people that did this, but don't mistake that for your God-fearing, Muslims who are, decent citizens nonetheless.
Testing while the two men are expecting to face federal charges, possibly terrorism charges, because we heard the police commissioner say today that this is being investigated. Now look
at these guys. How would you like to have these guys over for Thanksgiving dinner? I don't think so. God, they just look terrible. Get a haircut.
It's an act of ISIS-inspired terrorism. Why is that? Because according to our sources, the two men said they had watched ISIS propaganda videos. That may be where they got the instructions for how to build the devices.
And these are two men.
Nothing's worse for people than isolating and getting into a fucking tunnel. And then all you're doing is you're seeing, like, whether it's Fox News or ISIS videos or even CNN or one of the other, you get in a rabbit hole and you're fed this bullshit. And, there's Pizzagate. There was somebody, remember that guy with Pizzagate? He went to his pizza parlor with a fucking loaded AR-15 because he thought somebody was going to kill at the behest of Hillary Clinton. I mean, get out more, go to a luncheon. I mean, fuck.
And these are two men now in custody in Pennsylvania. What more do we know about them?
They're from Pennsylvania. They're in custody here. They came to this protest that was staged by a January 6th there, actually, named Jake Lang. He's a far-right provocateur.
Jake, stay at home and just look at your porn.
And it was an ugly protest against Muslims with a pig roast in Ramadan. I mean, it was underway.
A pig roast during Ramadan. What the Okay, why is that bad? Well, because they're fasting and they don't do pork. I mean, it's just insulting, and when you have somebody like Jake the Snake, all he's trying to do is just be inflammatory. Give me more views, give me, and it's like Megyn Kelly. She changed from somebody who seemed to be reasonable, but now she uses the Effenheimer and she's just fucking far right. And ladies and gentlemen, most Americans aren't far left and they're not far right. We're mostly right in the middle. We're mostly independent, honestly, and just like I can't take the snowflake tweakers, I can't take the far right maggots,
There were counter-protesters, many of them peaceful, but then, according to the police, these two guys show up and toss at least one of these devices. At first, it was thought they were smoke bombs, but you heard the police commissioner say they were not smoke bombs. They were.
Look at these guys. Honestly. Fucking get some teeth. They probably smell really bad. And if I think I would be protesting and be all up in arms if I smelled as bad as these guys did.
Were potentially viable improvised explosives.
It sounds like this was just a lucky thing that they didn't go off.
And the police commissioner said luck is not a strategy. That's why you do have to be vigilant. But it does underscore the concerning times that we're living in and what counterterrorism officials have been telling us and what we've been discussing since the U.S.-Israel strike on Iran, that it could awaken people or inspire people to do things. And in this case, as alleged, a couple of guys from Bucks County, Pennsylvania were able to drive into New York City, get close to the mayor's residence with...
That is an argument against, the action that Trump took against Iran, right? That it's going to awaken, these radicals and whatever. Personally, bring it fucking on. If there are radicals out there who want to fucking do X, Y, and Z, bring them out in the open and let's get rid of them. Honestly, but I don't think so. I think most people are not like that. Most people are not radical. We all have our views. I have my views of Trump. I have my views of Biden, none of which is positive in either one of them. Honestly, we could do a lot better in our country, but I'm not going to be afraid of terrorism. I'm just not going to walk down the street and be afraid. Neither should you. But at the same time, I'm not going to provoke something either. You know what I mean? This Jake the Snake, he's getting his just desserts.
What turn out to be potentially viable explosive devices.
All right, Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky, thank you. And I want to bring back ABC's contributor, former Homeland Security official Elizabeth Newman, for more on that. Hi again, Elizabeth. So what do you make of this incident in New York, and how does it factor into the heightened threat environment that we've been talking about related to the war with Iran?
I think it's important to remember that ISIS is still alive and actively recruiting people online. We had a number of incidents over the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of which occurred overseas.
So the police arrested these two men, Amir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi, and they allegedly traveled to New York with homemade bombs. And just possession of those is a 5-year mandatory minimum. And the reason it is because why? Because they're not registered. Oddly enough, if you register your fucking bomb, you could do that. I'd pay like $8 or however much it is and register your explosive device. But they're going to get a conspiracy charge here, too. Devices reportedly contained explosive material and shrapnel, nuts and bolts and screws, designed to injure people. Both suspects allegedly told investigators they were inspired by ISIS. So let's watch this other report. If we can get the fucker to work.
The parents of one of the alleged ISIS-loving teens who tried to detonate an IED near Gracie Mansion owns a gorgeous $2.25 million home, a sign they seized the American dream after arriving from Afghanistan decades ago, the Post has learned. Alleged bomber Ibrahim Kayumi's family home spans 5,800 square feet with 6 bedrooms.
So it just goes to show you. Remember Luigi? He came from privilege. These guys come from privilege. This isn't a class thing.
And 5 bathrooms in scenic Newtown, Pennsylvania, records show. Police say that Kayumi, who is 19 years old, and his friend Amir Balat, who is 18, traveled from their Bucks County enclave to attend a counter-protest against right-wing nut Jake Lang's anti-Muslim protest outside the mayor's residence.
We're gonna make sure Mandami knows that he's not welcome in New York City.
Who the fuck is this guy? I mean, who are you to go to New York City? Are you from New York City? Like that one guy said in the other video. Who are you to come here in our town to say this? And, the thing about it is, these loud-mouth people, like Jake the Snake, they get, they're just doing this for clicks. The more outrageous, and that's the sad thing about, social media and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. The problem with that is that it thrives on hate. Doesn't thrive on moderation. It doesn't thrive on peace. People gravitate towards the train wreck, right? They see a car crash. What do? We rubberneck, and that's see, and that's what That's what happens, with social media. And that's the danger of social media.
The pair allegedly hurled homemade bombs packed with a volatile explosive favored by international terrorists, known as Mother of Satan, sources have said. Dramatic viral video captured the moment Balat threw an IED as he came up behind a speaker addressing a small crowd outside the Upper East Side mansion.
You see that? That's on fucking camera. I mean, he's lighting it and throwing it.
In the panic and confusion, Walter Masterson, a comedian and actor who had been speaking to the group, stops talking as photographers fight their way through to capture pictures of the alleged improvised explosive device.
How dumb is that? Oh, let's go look at the bomb he just threw. I mean, how stupid is that? You remember the bombing in the Boston Marathon? That was huge. That hurt a lot of people. Why the fuck would you? Oh, let's go look.
Luckily, no injuries were reported. The duo were arrested following the alleged attempted attack. An NYPD commissioner, Jessica Tisch, said the act was being investigated as an act of terrorism.
So here's the thing. These guys are going to get held without bond. Okay, because you're not entitled to bond in certain circumstances. And in some circumstances like this, detention is presumed. So they'll be held without bond. And there's not going to be a condition or set of conditions that you could set to rebut that presumption. Okay, and that burden is on the defense to prove that there's a condition or set of conditions that can assure their reappearance in court and that they're not a danger to the public. Well, how do you say they're not a danger to the public? Well, the bomb didn't go off and he really didn't mean to hurt anybody and he's sorry. I don't think so. But let's go down the laundry list of charges. You've got an act of terrorism. You've got attempted murder. You've got conspiracy to commit murder. You got possession of an explosive device that's unregistered. You've got all kinds of charges that carry heavy, heavy sentences.
Balat, whose parents hailed from Turkey and became naturalized U.S. citizens in 2017, where they live in an idyllic 3,200 square foot house worth $653,000, flashed a Sikh salute honoring ISIS as he was led in shackles from a police precinct Monday. He was seen holding up his right index finger, a universal salute for the terror group, and grinning at the press while being led by a cop and an FBI agent.
Let's see him 6 or 7 years from now, if he still feels the way he does.
ISIS fighters have often used the index finger gesture in their propaganda. The gesture is also used by many Muslims to demonstrate their commitment to monotheism. Law enforcement sources told the Post that one of 2 suspects used the Arabic expression Allahu Akbar, God is great, following their police interview, and one of them has asked for their lawyer.
Unbelievable. I just, what could be going through your mind, other than, just radical bullshit? So one of the suspects is caught on camera buying fuses from a fireworks manufacturer or fireworks store. Just a reminder that especially in big cities, everything you do is being filmed. Remember I told you there's a digital footprint everywhere you go? So this is footage of him going in and getting the fireworks stuff. The problem is that you almost don't even need this. I mean, he's there, throwing it's him lighting is on camera. And that's something we didn't have 10 years ago. Everybody and anybody who's got a cell phone has a camera. And how easy is it to just turn on your camera and record what's happening? So when Kayumi was asked why he did it, he simply said ISIS. That's what is in his indictment. He also copped to watching Islamic State propaganda, the documents alleged. So here are the charges. Okay, I already kind of told you what I thought the charges would be, but Balat, 18 of Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and Kayumi, 19 of Newtown, are charged with attempted provision of material support and resources to a designated foreign terrorist organization, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. Use of a weapon of mass destruction, which carries a maximum of life. Transportation of explosive materials, which carries a maximum of 10 years, minimum of 5. interstate transportation and receipt of explosives, which carries a maximum of 10, and a minimum, and then an unlawful possession of a destructive device. Unregistered. I still can't believe you can register it. As long as you register it, it's okay. Here's my bomb. Can I get a serial number for my bomb? Ladies and gentlemen, going forward, we have a situation where we've decided to attack another country. I suspect more of this kind of stuff is going to happen. And we just have to stay vigilant. If you see something, say something. You know, protect your fellow citizens, regardless of their race, gender, creed. They're Muslim and they're American. Protect them, just like you would me or you. Don't hate. You know, this hate bullshit is just absolutely ridiculous. This breaks my heart when I see this, because, and I'm not talking about from this ISIS crazy people, because they're just fucking crazy, but this Jake the Snake Lang, you know, who I think is going to get his own comeuppance here soon. If I go search Jake Lang and see what the latest news on him is. You know, that hate, and this has been made okay by our president. You know, this hate people of color, you know, hate Somalis because it's a shit country and blah blah blah. You know, that's just, I know a lot of Somali people, a lot. I just do it because of my work. I know a lot of good Somali citizens. You know, this whole fraud thing that they have going on, that's such a small number compared to how many people that are actually here. It's like 70 or so. It's a big number. I don't know what the number is. Doesn't mean we treat anything that's different from us poorly. I mean, why the fuck would we do that? You know, guess what? The armed forces no longer separates people based on race. You know, and why not? Because we're stronger together. You know, if we're in a fucking foxhole, you think I'm going to look over and see, are you a Republican or a Democrat? Or, you know, I'm not going to protect you if you're... No, we're fucking Americans. You know, we die in a foxhole together, you know, and we protect each other. Anyway, that's and I haven't been in the military, so I can't really say anything about a foxhole. So I don't want to give the misimpression that I've been in the military, because I haven't. But I do remember during the George Floyd riots, you know, I had a neighbor and I would have protected him. I had my 9mm on me, and I certainly would have protected him. It just was my neighbor, you know, and that was a test. I think that was a test for us. And this whole ICE thing coming into Minnesota was a test. Let's pass the test, okay? Let's pass the test. This bullshit with Jake the Snake, don't fall for it. And don't fall for this other shit either. You know, this ISIS, you know, let's bomb people in this protest. You know, I thought this was originally a bombing of the governor's mansion, or the governor's Gracie mansion in New York. That's what I thought it was originally. But that's really not what it was. He was trying to disrupt the anti-Muslim protest. That's exactly what Jake the Snake wants. He wants that controversy. He wants that battle. Although, when push comes to shove, we saw how tough he is. He's tough with inanimate objects like ice, you know, ice sculptures. He's a very tough guy, but he's not tough when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. Give me a break. Wearing your fucking fatigues and knocking over some ice sculpture. Tough guy. Give me a break. Let's not do that. St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner. And, you know, in every fucking corner of the globe, what do we have? There's an Irish pub in every fucking corner. You don't see a Russian pub. And once in a while, you might see an English pub, but hardly ever. No, you see an Irish pub in every major city, and usually a ton of them. You know, Savannah, Georgia has probably one of the biggest St. Patrick's Day celebrations in the country. I know in St. Paul, Minnesota, we do it upright. And that's joy. That's green fucking beer and togetherness and happiness. That's where our focus should fucking be, not with Jake the Snake or people like him. You know, put your arm around somebody and say, Happy St. Patrick's Day. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe. Click the little notification button, the little bell. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and, you know, do what I'm going to do. Hug and kiss somebody that's Irish. See you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, police is at my god.